Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host today, Ryan King. Our guest today is the iconic bassist Brad Merritt from the band 5440. Welcome to the hall. Well, thanks for coming on, Brad. It's pleasure to have you. You're the first person on the podcast that can probably tell the quality of our mics, plus or minus. Most people come on, they're like, look at it, this is nice. I'm like, I don't think it works. Like we make do with it, right? You're probably the first person that could weigh in on that. But
I possibly there's a couple other guys in the band that would be better at that. But it sure looks nice from here.
yeah, we all I do is just ramble on, and then Mark cleans it up pretty good. So
Yeah,
I'm lucky
perfect.
for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, 5440. So I've heard you're a local band, right? Delta or
So, well, sort of. I mean, Neil and I met at South Delta Secondary School in Tawasin.
yeah,
I was there since grade 8. I'd moved all through the United States as a kid, and then came back to Canada in grade 8. And Neil moved. He had been all over Canada as a kid. Born in Regina, and then went out to Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, and Ottawa. And anyway, he was in Edmonton. He came to Tawasin in grade 11, halfway through grade 11.
yeah.
So we became friends pretty quick and started going to concerts together and playing music together as best we could. And the band didn't start until a couple of years after high school. I was probably 20 years old. We were both 20 at the
Yeah.
time. I did a couple of years of college, and he went to Berklee College of Music in Boston. At that time, I was living in Surrey, and he was living in Vancouver. So, but there's a Delta connection.
Were you guys out skimboarding at Centennial when you guys were in high school?
He didn't do that. I did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I live over in White Rock, and my kids are
Yeah.
pretty big into skimboarding. There's some guys from that side of the bay that really rip it up.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I was that. I probably got 50, 60 feet.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
That's not bad. Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys, I've kind of watched some stuff on you guys, and I'm not a self-proclaimed music aficionado by any sense of the word.
Right.
I know what music I listen to and that I like, but I watched a thing, and so you guys go to high school together, and you guys are probably jamming in the garage. Did your parents have a space kind of where you guys were allowed to have kind of free reign?
Yeah, we did. We worked in Neil's garage. We had Graham Hatch, who joined us on drums. He worked at CFMI for a number of years. I don't know where he is now. I think he might be at it's Jack. I think he's at Jack now.
Yeah.
But anyway, and then but even before that, just sitting around with guitars, acoustic guitars, electric guitars in his bedroom, which is right. It was a kind of a neat thing. It was a split level house, and
Yeah.
he kind of had that lower level, that
Yeah.
goes out to the garage.
Yeah.
So we could work almost anywhere in that
Yeah.
area, and played. We used to get his older brother David, who's now playing with us, keyboards, and he played with us in the past as well, and has played on almost every single record we've ever made as well. And I don't know where he was living at the time, but anyway, his record collection traveled with his parents.
Yeah.
So Neil had access. So, we had everything from, weird jazz records to all these 45s from the 60s and early 70s that we'd put on and try to learn. So,
Yeah.
which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, that's it's when you talk and you listen to podcasts and different things. When musicians talk, it's interesting to hear some of the music and some of the influences they took in. Right, like you think you young guys in their 20s and they're going to start like a punk band or something. What are you guys listening to? Well, it's like, some of them are listening to classical, some of them are listening to stuff that you wouldn't even think, right? But you're picking up little bits, from
Yeah.
all of that.
It for sure. It's like if when I think about it, I have this really eclectic background musically. My mother was great at playing piano by ear, and she could play whatever, Both Sides Now by Joni Mitchell or whatever was the hit of the day kind of thing. And she also had sheet music, and stuff like that. And, grew up listening to everything from, 50s and 60s and early 70s musicals that my mother was interested in, to the, the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. And all the bands, Jefferson Airplane and the Kinks and the Who, and then later sort of kind of prog rock and and then kind of fusion jazz a little bit, and it gets really wide, and then you start going back, to early kind of R&B and soul, and and the next thing you know, you're listening to Cab Calloway records or something, and then what happens is you get a little older as a teenager, 15, 16, 17, and it gets very narrow, right? And so that time punk rock's just starting to happen, kind of late 1970s. And, I got it down to where, if it wasn't DOA or the Subhumans, it was shit, That's,
Yeah.
And, and then I started playing in a band. You start playing, and then you sort of appreciate what's around you, and then it just opens you back up again, right? And to everything else that's around. Next thing you know, you're going, Michael Jackson Off the Wall. That's pretty good, So so the process is interesting, and then to look at it, in retrospect, is kind of cool. And I think every musician goes through that. Where you take all these things from your past, and then you just narrow it down, and then boom, it explodes again to the way it was before, and then some.
Yeah, music aside, a 17, 18-year-old knows everything. And
Yeah,
they
right.
know, right? And it's a pretty narrow focus, and it's like, no, if it's not inside this focus, it doesn't mean shit to me,
Yeah.
because I know everything at 17, 18.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
Yep.
even music that you're like I wouldn't be caught dead listening to that. And
Yeah,
then
right.
fast forward
yeah.
and you listen, you're like, man, I got some respect for,
Yeah.
how they put that together.
Yeah.
It's,
It's all these bands that I laughed at, like whatever it might be, certainly, I like Van Halen or Foreigner, and now I listen to it and go, yeah, it's pretty good. It's they had something going on, right?
So you guys, you're in high school. You guys kind of split up a little bit for college or whatever, and then you meet back up. And at what point are you like, let's get together and let's kind of take the show on the road, if you will?
Yeah. So and I'm working and going to school. Neil's to school in Boston, and I'm going to all these punk rock shows from late '78 until early '80, whatever. I've seen everybody that comes through, all the local bands as well, and developed a huge respect for the local scene, right? I mean, just every band, I just went this is, I felt privileged to be in Vancouver and be a part of this and see this, and I think I sent Neil a telegram, if I remember correctly. It's like, you got to come back here. We got to start a band. we can do this, you and I, he, the way he puts it, he goes, he considered himself the 450th best guitar player out of 800 at Berkeley, right? And he talked to a teacher there, and what can I expect? And he said, well, I can certainly get a job on a cruise ship, in the summer, and you can become a music teacher, right? And he went, well, I don't want to do that, right? So I think he just did a couple semesters, did a whole year there. And came back, and we started the band shortly after that. And yeah, the rest is history.
Maybe that was the music teacher's kind of reverse psychology. Hey, yeah, wow, you're gonna probably end up in a jazz lounge somewhere playing for some drunks, and it's like, nah, I'll show you, right? And
well, the punk rock thing is pretty helpful, as a late teen or 20-year-old male, it's like there is a negative energy, right? It's like all those bad things that happened to you in high school and whatever it be, like say teachers or whatever, and you use that.
It's a little angsty.
Yeah. Yeah, you use it and you turn it into something positive.
So, so obviously your career has stemmed, it's been a couple decades here going through different things. And what, like your first album, tape? Or I guess
Yeah,
you'd be vinyl still?
so the first thing we did something called Things Are Still Coming Ashore. We got involved with a local record company called Modamu, which is kind of a co-op, a cooperative thing.
Yeah.
And bands flowed in and out of it, right? And we did 4 songs for a compilation album, and there's 3 bands on it: Junko Run, Animal Slaves, and us. And then we said, well, we're going to do our own thing. We did a 6-song EP. So we took them on vinyl, and then we did Set the Fire, which was kind of our first full-length studio record, one that kind of sounds good. It's like it has production. There's like bottom end coming out, well mastered. Pressed 2,000 copies of that and distributed all over the United States, getting a lot of attention on American college radio, Canadian college radio, left of the dial stuff, co-op radio and public radio, and then Zulu Records. I don't know if you remember them on West 4th Avenue. They were Quintessence Records at the time.
Okay.
And Don Betts, who worked there, said, I could put this out on cassette. And so we licensed it to him, and I don't know how he made 100 or 200 of them and sold them. So and now we're in 1984. We're LP and cassette, and then we record the Green Record on our own in 1985, and all these record companies are coming to see us when we play in California. Signed to Warner Brothers, and I think that was just vinyl and cassettes, the Green Record, and then from that point on, like Show Me and everything else, it was vinyl, cassette, and CD, and then they went back and did CDs for the Green Record. And in fact, interesting story about the Green Record is Dave Genn, who plays in our band now. He's been with us now for it'll be 21 years this spring.
Yeah.
He took Phil's spot. So, and he's like 9 years younger than me. He grew up a big fan of the band. He goes, I had the Green Record on vinyl, I had it on cassette, and I had it on CD.
Nice. Collector.
Yeah, and Warner Brothers was that till the end. We did another record with them after Show Me. We did a record called Fight for Love. And then after that, vinyl was gone when we signed to Sony Music in 91 or 92. And it was just, I think we were on, laser disc and mini disc and, all this other stuff as well. But vinyl was gone. And then eventually cassette went away. So now you're just CDs. And then, now we're kind of on our own for the most part.
Yeah.
And so we press vinyl.
Yeah.
We definitely make CDs. People like CDs still. I like CDs. They sound great. They're very portable. They make for nice souvenirs, so we sell a lot off the stage. And then of course streaming, right? We've got all these aggregators that we're streamed at everything from Apple to Spotify to CD Baby to Deezer to Tidal to everything. So people can access our music in a number of different ways.
So back when you first started then, and you were saying that you're selling these records, is that like out of the back of your car, out of your trunk, or like how did that look? How was that working then?
Yeah, so that's a good question. We would send a copy to these distributors, these independent distributors, and they're usually at territories. And they say, yeah, I could sell this, and they say, I'll take 40 copies, or I'll take 80. Or I think they were 25, so it would be, 25 or 50 or 75 or 100 kind of thing. And and then you'd always have to go back and try to get paid for them, right? And we did that, and it was great, and it was selling, right? I mean, and then we thought, do you want to press some more? And we just kind of got tired of that. And so we said, let's just try to get a record company to do this for us. And we found one, right? So we found Warner Brothers and did 3 with them, and then we did a 6 or 7 with Sony, and then we had a bunch of independents after that. We had True North and Red and Michael Weckerly, his label, El Macambo Records. So it's nice to get somebody else involved, and even if you don't want to give up your rights, you can just license to them, and then they manufacture, and it's all good.
Sorry, Ryan, I don't want to jump in here on all the questions, but so at what point did you guys figure out, okay, we can quit our day jobs and we can, like, this is something that will put food on the table?
Sure. So all through Warner Brothers, we're all kind of working day jobs. So when we signed to Sony, and that first record came out in '92, before that record came out, we did a publishing deal with Sony ATV, got a big advance. We got a big advance from Brockham Merchandising, and then I think there was 3 big advances, I guess maybe a little of the record advance. And so we had this money that we're sitting on, and we just kind of distributed that, and then after that it was like, we're doing music full time, right? And then that's when things started to take off. That the Dear Dear record went platinum in '92, and had several platinum records after that, and the things are starting to flow.
Yeah, because at that point you're you signed on, you get your advance, you're jumping in both feet at that point, right? So it's
absolutely.
You talk, we're talking about like tape and CD and vinyl, all these things, and your song's probably playing in a Camaro with T-tops in 1985 out of a cassette on Granville Street, to fast forward and now you're looking at Spotify and you got music where it's been a huge change throughout your guys' career, and you guys are still. I just saw a thing. You guys got a spot for downtown. I think I just saw you guys are going to. Mark, help me. Where did we had our event there?
Commodore? You guys are playing the Commodore coming up, are you?
So we play there every October on the Thanksgiving weekend.
Okay.
Just the Friday and Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
And tickets usually go on sale in late March, early April.
Yeah. That must have been what I saw.
It sells out, and it's just like it's a big love-in, and we love it.
Yeah. So what kind of things as a band do you guys have going on right now? Are you guys still doing, aside from that kind of stuff, what does the future look like for you guys?
So in many ways, we've never done better than we do now. Like, we get well paid to play shows. We say no more than we say yes. We have a brand, so it's a pretty good life. What do? We've just got a new record out called West Coast Band. It's doing well. You can find it all over the place. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on, like, say, Spotify. And it's an interesting record in that, during COVID, where you couldn't play for 2 years, I said we should be getting together and talking about, what we want to do in the future, and just have a little social, just sort of keep the bonds happening. And so every Thursday at 5 p.m. we'd have a 40-minute Zoom meeting. And it came to the people telling stories, and lots of laughs, because we're not the kind of band that lives in the past. We're kind of more like a what's next kind of band. Like, rather, really trying to push, forward and go.
Yep.
And so we got a little reflective, and I think Neil was taking notes, not writing them down, but mental notes.
Yep.
And one of these meetings, he goes, I got this song, and it's about Matt, and it's called Table for One. And it's this story. I think we're in North Bay, and we just finished sound check, and we don't have much time before the show starts. And there's this Chinese buffet, which is right next to our hotel. It's about all we have time for, right? And so we go running in there, and it's Neil and I, and then there's this huge lineup, and Matt's right at the front, and he's getting in there, and he's just getting in his plate. You know, they give you a plate and a napkin, whatever, and point you to a table. And we're like, hey, Matt, get us a table for 4. You know, so everyone in the band, and he just looks back at us, and then he looks to the server, and he goes, table for 1, please. And so we had to go to the back of the line, put our plates down, and then wait, and we, you know, barely got fed before we had to play. So he became table for 1. So that's the first song. Anyway, there's a song about everybody in the band. There's stories about, you know, being in the van and, you know, trying to make it to gigs and interviews and a few other run-ins that Neil's had with people, and it's all laughs and giggles, and we had a lot of fun putting it together. It's the first record where there's like not one metaphor, right? It's, as our manager says, he goes, it's literal and linear, right? And it's like a country record. It's just full of stories, you know, observations, and it made us laugh, you know. In fact, when they came to do overdubs, they had these female background singers who were quite friendly with that have sung on a bunch of our records. And they got a lyric sheet, and they started to read the lyrics and laugh, you know. So it was if we figured, hey, you know, they're laughing, we're laughing, and then because it was never meant for anybody else, but we just went, why not share it, right? So that's what we've done. And then we have this. We did during COVID, right in the middle. We did a small show at El Macambo in Toronto, recorded it professionally, mixed it professionally, mastered, sounds great. So we have this live record that we have in vinyl and CD, and it's selling as well. So we got these 2 things going right now. We got a bunch of dates across Canada, a little bit in the United States, starting in late May, running through till just before Christmas. Nice. So, you know, we and right now we're just kind of traveling around. Some of us are doing other things. So life is good.
You know, when you reflect back, like all these, you know, like you make a song based on, you know, your trip to the Chinese food restaurant, and it's those stories. Like you guys have been, you know, pretty tight group for so many years. Like some of those stories, you look back and you can't help but laugh. Like, do you remember what your first van was? Like your first van that you guys kind of toured and probably slept on the floor in?
So yeah, I bought it. I bought it new. I bought it, and I think it was in January or February of '82, but it was an '81 model. It was a Ford Econoline, and you know, I had been, you know, I had a '68 Ford Fairlane, and it was, you know, I sold that, and then I was driving the pickup truck at the company that I worked at. It was a foundry, and then I said, I need a van, and you know, I said. You know, I had my dad co-sign the loan at the bank, you know, and you know, got a brand new van, and we put with the band, we put over 300,000 kilometers on it. We just went around North America, around North America, around North America.
Did the van have a name?
No, but it's featured on here. I'll show you the album cover. I don't know if you can see this. That's this here is the
That's awesome.
So that's more or less the van. It was a little bit lighter brown than that, but that's like it was a 1981 Ford Econoline van. Didn't have as nice wheels as that one does.
That's cool.
But it looked exactly like that. No windows on the side, no windows in the back. Right. We put the gear in the back, and
didn't have the big airbrush mural on the side of, you know, you guys riding a dragon or something.
No, that's good. I like that. Yeah, you mentioned the T-top Camaro. It's so yeah. No, I had fond memories of that for sure. You know, I put the only modification I made was I put in I think it was a Alpine or Craig stereo cassette. You know, with some good speakers. You needed, you know. And then I had my good friends, Kevin Mills and Miles Constable, who are handy, they put in a kind of a bulkhead, right? So it's quite secure, and so all the gear went behind that, and then the people in front, and then
Yeah.
kind of like a little plywood bed that people could sit on or lie down on. People could lie on top of that, and then people could get in underneath it. You know, and we'd travel usually 5 to 6 people in there, and 2 seatbelts.
You just never know. There might be some contractor driving that van today and doesn't even realize it's history.
Could be. I sold it for $1,000 in the late 1980s. So yeah, it could still be out there.
That's super cool. So you guys are all kind of, well, really, you're still making music, and you guys are still touring to, and you're saying you're being choosy. So I really appreciate you choosing to spend some time with us.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. I'm glad to do this. I find I get as much out of it as I put in. So I like this.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. We appreciate your kindness. Anything you'd like to say moving forward? Any kind of promotional stuff, or where you say you do your show here at the Commodore once a year? We're gonna get on the list to get tickets to that. We'll be there for sure.
So that's it. It's I believe it's Thanksgiving weekend, like it normally is, 9th and 10th or whatever that Friday Saturday is. What else can I say? That'll be our Vancouver play. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you find that annually you see kind of the same crowd? It's these people they're looking forward to that annually.
So, people generally don't come every year, but they come every second or third year, kind of thing, or they mix it up, or 2 years in a row and then take 2 years off or whatever. We see a lot of recurring faces. Absolutely, people that and there's people that we know. There's a fan of ours that lives in Montreal. She comes out every year to see it, and our annual show in Toronto, people come from all over Ontario, Quebec, northeastern United States to see those shows. So yeah, we do see familiar faces, and that's a fantastic thing. That's why I think it's part of the love-in, right? It's like they want to be there, we want to be there, we want to be together and create this thing. So it's great.
Is there any one venue that sticks in your mind as like the spot, or like the place, or when you guys started out, you guys were pretty young, kind of getting together, and you're starting out as a punk band, thinking, yeah, we're gonna get in the punk scene, or we're gonna do this, and we're gonna play our instruments and potentially get better at it and see where it goes. Was there ever like the Madison Square Garden, or something where you're like a venue, and then all of a sudden you get there and you're like, you see this goal kind of come around for you? Is there anything like that?
Well, the big one for us was to play the Commodore Ballroom, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I saw the Clash there. I saw the Police. I saw U2 there. I saw the Cure there. The Boomtown Rats, Blondie I saw there. And that, as far as I could see us going was just being a band that could back up one of these bands at the Commodore Ballroom, right?
So on the same token then, is there a band that you did meet as, like, say they were one of your idols growing up, that you got to meet while you were on tour and you were like kind of starstruck?
Yeah, well, there's a few of those.
Yeah,
for sure. We did 4 shows with John Fogerty.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we played Vancouver, Seattle, Portland, and Eugene. And we played at the QE Theater, the Paramount in Seattle, and I don't know what it was. The big civic theaters, right? And yeah, he's an interesting fellow, right? I've had several conversations, and part of my living in the United States, I lived in San Francisco in the Bay Area when he was a big thing, right? And he's an East Bay guy, so that was pretty great. We were going into room to do an interview at Warner Brothers in, I want to say, 1986, and it was with Terry David Mulligan. He was down doing everybody, right? They just parade them through. Anyway, before we're waiting outside, there's another group that's in there, and out comes Linda Ronstadt and Emmylou Harris and Dolly Parton, because they were a trio, right? And they just, right, yeah. This kind of a country record, country folky kind of record. And it's like, Linda Ronstadt, wow. And then Emmylou Harris, wow. And then Dolly Parton's like, she's a real wow, right?
Mm-hmm.
She comes up to like my sternum, and she's got a waist that's like this, it's like, and everything else we know about Dolly Parton, wig and the whole thing. And she looks at me, she goes, pardon me, sir, can you tell me where the little girl's room is? As if I worked there or something, right? And that was about as starstruck as I ever got, We opened up for the Rolling Stones in 2005 at the Saddle Dome, Calgary.
Yeah.
And we were fortunate enough to get our photo taken with them. They do that just before they go on, right? They put you in like a hockey dressing room with a black scrim behind, and then in comes Mick Jagger and shakes everybody's hand, and we talk with him, and then the rest of them come in, Keith and Ronnie, and Charlie was still alive back then, and that was great. I don't think I was so starstruck at that point, but everyone else in the band was. We went and visited Keith in his dressing room before that with Ron Wood, who we were friendly with because we did a show in Banff, and he came and saw us play, and we went out with him afterwards, and so he took us to Keith's dressing room, and which is great. Had a nice chat with him, and it's not every day you get to go to Keith Richards' dressing room and have a chat. So that was pretty impressive. I mean, we've had a lot of those little things. It's great. But I tell you, those guys, they're just absolutely gracious. They don't put on airs. They're approachable. They're like I say, gracious, and it was it was a real joy. It was a real joy to meet them.
How did you find the sound quality in the Saddle Dome? I've heard different things about that.
Yeah, so we played there a few times, it's not my favorite place. Yeah, I think they're going to tear it down, and it deserves to go.
Yeah, I used to live in Calgary for about 13 years, so I saw quite a few shows there, and I think the last show we saw was Motley Crue. And it's just loud, right? And it's just it was actually, we had a great time. We rented like an old '80s limo, right, and kind of played the part. But I think it's kind of a common thing people are saying. It's a weird shape, right? It's kind of a weird space. So
so I think if you're down low, it's okay. But as soon as you get up, it's just the sound just goes in and then sticks in those corners, and it's like. Yeah, you're way better to listen to your stereo at home.
Yeah. But the speaker technology has gotten a lot better, though, has it not? Going to speaker arrays instead of the old big towers that they used to have. And that, I'm sure that's probably improved some of the sound quality in some of these, like the BC Place and that kind of stuff, right?
Well, yeah, I haven't been to a show in BC Place since like 1983 or something like that. I saw David Bowie there, and Peter Gabriel. But certainly like a place like... what do they call it now? Rogers Arena. Like that's a good sounding room, right? I mean, I'd rather go there and see a show than the QE Theater, I think. So yeah, you're right. There's and also just the rooms are built better with more of a the idea that there'll be concerts there, not just hockey games. I saw a lot of shows as a kid at the Pacific Coliseum. And there's a lot of bad sounding shows there, but I loved it just the same. Great place for hockey, though. I love the noise and the reverberation for a hockey game. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we're not gonna go until you introduce us to the cat that's in the background. So for anyone that's listening to this, obviously you're not gonna see it, but at some point here, someone slipped your cat in the door behind you, and we can see it's walking around in the back there.
Was it black?
Yes. I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so that's Winnie, or Winifred, yeah. And then we also have Betty. upstairs, and she won't come down here when you guys are down here. She's a bit shy.
Yeah. I don't blame her. So do you still call the Lower Mainland home? Is Vancouver home for you?
I live in Victoria now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I live in Victoria. Neil lives on Gabriola Island. Matt lives on Salt Spring.
Nice.
And then the two Daves, Dave Genn and David Osborne, they live in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Right.
I grew up in Nanaimo, and you know, a lot of people, they talk about, you know, when you move to the island, like, oh well, you know, the ferry and stuff. I'm like, no, you don't get it. When you move to the island, you don't need the ferry because you just stay there.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I'm not quite at that stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been here. It'll be 7 years. Yeah, 7 years. Yeah, 7 years and a few months. And just with what it is that I do, you know, I'm always, and it's like, you know, it's the usual stuff, right? But yeah, there's no reason to leave. You're right.
Well,
It's got everything here.
Gabriola and Salt Spring too are, you know, for anyone that hasn't been there, those are cool spots.
Oh, no question. Yeah, so Matt's been on Salt Spring for, I don't know, 25 plus years. I don't think he can. If he's going to move, he's going to be to Vancouver Island. So that's the only place he has on his radar. So we consider ourselves a Vancouver band. I mean, that's just, you know, so that's just because we live kind of around it. You know, 2 guys in it and 3 guys around it. That's where we keep all of our gear. That's where we rehearse. That's quite often where we fly out of, or, you know, so we just happen to live, you know, around.
Yeah, I would consider that a true statement. From everything, you know, I did a little bit of homework prior to us sitting down here, right? Just so I kind of was semi up to speed. And the one thing, you know, you talk about, you know, time, you know, being in the band and all this, the time that's passed. You know, in our kind of day and age right now, everything, they talk about how things age, right? And it's this digital world, everything's out there, and you know, you see some TV shows, and you're like, no, that didn't age very well, right? Or whatever, right? That's kind of the term. But I was going through your guys' kind of portfolio of music, and I'm like, it's aged really well. You know, it's like you're listening to some songs, and you're like, that's, you know, that, you know, came out in the early '80s, and it's still just as good today, if not better. Like, you know, like whiskey or wine, it's kind of even got better with age.
I appreciate that, Ryan. Thank you. Yeah.
Mark, you got all the good questions in the back there, Mark. You got anything you want to hit them with before we wrap it up?
No, I think that's it. I really appreciate you coming on. This is amazing for us, and we're very thankful.
Yeah, I feel the same way, guys. No, it's been great.
Yeah,
we'll again sometime.
Yeah, we'll keep in touch, and we'll definitely be some fanboy. We'll be in the front row for sure.
All right, I'll be looking for you.
All right. Thanks again for your time, Brad. It was truly our pleasure, and you know, welcome to the hall.